I stood there motionless, my boarding pass trembling in my hand. Gate 67 buzzed with last-minute announcements and murmurs of travelers, but all I could see was the glowing blue text on my phone screen. "Don't wait for me. I'm done." Vanessa, my wife. The woman I thought I knew better than myself. I blinked, thinking maybe I'd misread it. But no. It was clear, cold, final. We were supposed to be flying to the Bahamas to celebrate our 6th wedding anniversary. First-class seats booked, reservations made. I had even upgraded our suite to an ocean view penthouse, thinking it would be the perfect time to reconnect. Lately, we hadn't been right, but this was nuclear. This. If you're hooked already, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more unbelievable real-life stories that hit deep and stay with you. I turned slowly toward the gate, watching passengers walk past, unaware that my world had just detonated. I tapped back to our chat history. Nothing unusual. Just hours ago, she was smiling at me over coffee. She kissed my cheek before the Uber arrived. She held my hand through security. Then she vanished. It happened while I was grabbing snacks for the flight. I came back and she and her bag were gone. I called, thinking she might have gone to the restroom. No answer. Then came the text. I felt heat rush to my face. 1,000 questions collided in my head like a car crash. What did she mean, done? Done with the trip? With the fight we had 2 nights ago? With me? I opened our banking app out of instinct. It loaded slowly on the airport Wi-Fi, but when the numbers popped up, my heart dropped again. Nearly half of our joint account was missing. She had moved it that morning. The timestamp said 7:42 a.m. while I was making her breakfast. That's when the rage kicked in, sharp, clean, and energizing. No more confusion, no more numb shock. I wasn't going to sit at a gate waiting for someone who had just detonated our life together over text. She thought she'd pulled the last string, but she didn't know me. I scrolled through my contacts and tapped a name I hadn't used in years. Drew Latham. He managed luxury travel for high-end clients, mostly celebrities and executives. "Ethan Carrington," he answered smoothly. "Haven't heard from you since Tokyo. What's up?" "I need a jet, private, from JFK to LA tonight." There was a pause. "Done. You want champagne or just vengeance?" I smirked despite myself. "Both." "Give me an hour. I'll send the terminal and crew info." I ended the call, feeling my pulse steady. If Vanessa wanted to leave me like some cheap cliffhanger, I'd rewrite the whole damn story. I walked to the exit without looking back at the gate. People probably thought I was just another guy changing flights. They didn't know I was walking out of a marriage, a dream, a decade. Outside, the wind hit harder. I pulled my coat tight and called someone I hadn't in months, Marcus, our financial advisor. "Ethan, everything okay?" "Lock the accounts, now. Freeze everything that's joint. I don't care how it looks. Do it." "Understood. I'll send confirmation shortly." She wanted to be done, fine. She'd be done with the money too. As I waited for the car Drew arranged, I remembered the last thing Vanessa said in person this morning. "You always have to control everything." No, Vanessa. I wanted to build everything. With you. But maybe you never wanted that. I opened my notes app and started typing. Not out of pettiness, but clarity. A list of what I knew and what I needed to do. My brain clicked into problem-solving mode. Something I did better than anyone. By the time the sleek black car pulled up, I had already drafted messages to my lawyer, my assistant, and my therapist. Yes, her suggestion originally. But I'd need clarity for what was ahead. The driver opened the door. "Mr. Carrington." "Yes," I said, slipping inside. We pulled away from the chaos of JFK, the glow of terminals fading behind me. I wasn't running. I was beginning. She'd made her move. Now it was my turn. And she wouldn't see it coming. The hum of the engines lulled most people into a sense of calm, but not me. I sat upright, back stiff against the leather seat, eyes fixed on the endless black outside the cabin window. The city lights had disappeared long ago. Now it was just clouds and darkness. I wasn't running from anything. I was flying straight through it. The jet was silent, luxurious, excessive, but I barely noticed. My mind was a storm. I kept replaying every moment with Vanessa over the last few years. The missed cues, the cold shoulders, the way her kisses had grown mechanical. We'd met in the most ordinary way, a coffee shop. She spilled her latte on my laptop, apologized 100 times. I asked her out that same day. She was vibrant then, playful, unpredictable, magnetic. She made me laugh when I forgot how. She said I made her feel safe. I believed her. When my company took off, so did we. First-class flights, 5-star dinners, designer everything. At first we celebrated. We felt unstoppable. But something shifted, slowly, subtly. Her smiles turned to smirks. Her questions became accusations. She called me robotic, obsessed with control, emotionless, but I never stopped loving her. The flight attendant brought me a glass of bourbon. I stared at the amber liquid, then set it down untouched. I wasn't in the mood to forget. I wanted to feel everything. I opened my laptop and connected to the plane's satellite Wi-Fi. Messages were already coming in. None from Vanessa. I checked the bank accounts again. Marcus had done his job. Everything joint was locked. She hadn't touched her own accounts, yet. Part of me expected her to call, to scream, to demand. But silence? That was worse. I opened my email and began writing to my lawyer, Philip Lang. He wasn't just good. He was a shark in a tailored suit. Subject: urgent, immediate action required. Philip, Vanessa left me, walked out at JFK, took a chunk of our joint funds and disappeared. I've already frozen accounts. Need to start preparing for legal steps. Divorce may be inevitable. I'll be in LA by morning. Call me first thing. Ethan, I hit send, heart pounding. Just typing the word divorce felt surreal. We weren't the type. At least I thought we weren't. I leaned back, shut my eyes, and let the cabin noise fill the silence inside me. Then my phone buzzed. Not Vanessa. It was Riley. I hadn't talked to him in almost a year. Old college friend. The one who never liked Vanessa. The one who said things I didn't want to hear. Heard what happened. You good? How the hell did he know already? I ignored it. I wasn't ready for the I told you so. Instead, I scrolled through old photos. Our wedding in Aspen. Her smile wide, hands wrapped around my neck, like I was her whole world. Maybe I was once. Or maybe I was just the stepping stone. Another buzz. This time, a voicemail from Marcus. Hey Ethan, everything's frozen as requested. Just letting you know Vanessa tried to transfer another 10Ks about 20 minutes ago. Blocked it. Thought you'd want to know. There it was. The beginning of the unraveling. She'd tried to bleed me dry before even explaining why she left. I should have felt victorious, but I didn't. I felt hollow. We had built a life together, or so I thought. But maybe she'd been planning this for longer than I realized. My mind went to the last few fights, the sudden trips she took with friends, the way she changed her phone password and claimed it was about security. I didn't want to be paranoid. I never wanted to be that guy. But maybe I should have been. I opened a blank note and started listing questions. When did she plan this? Who helped her? What else don't I know? Then I added one more. Who was she really? I looked out the window again. Still nothing but black and cloud. But something inside me was changing. Hurt was turning into clarity, pain into planning. She thought she left me broken on the airport floor. She had no idea. I sipped the bourbon finally. It was warm, sharp, clean, like revenge. By the time I landed in LA, the game had already begun. Vanessa didn't call. She didn't text. But I knew better than to assume she was finished. She was calculating. Always had been. She didn't walk away without a plan. She walked away thinking she could win. And now I was a threat. The moment my feet hit the tarmac, my phone lit up with notifications. First from Marcus, then Philip. But buried beneath the legal alerts and bank updates was what I had been waiting for. Vanessa's name. I opened the message. What the hell, Ethan? You froze the accounts? Are you kidding me? Another popped up immediately after. You're not thinking clearly. I needed that money. I deserve that money. After everything I've put up with. I let it sit. Then came a voicemail. I didn't even need to press play. I could hear her tone just reading the transcript. Indignant, dramatic, twisting the narrative like a seasoned performer. "I can't believe you would humiliate me like this. Do you know how this makes me look? I'm stranded, Ethan. You left me with nothing." That one almost made me laugh. She left me at an airport with a text message. But sure, I was the one who left her with nothing. I forwarded everything to Philip, let him build the timeline, let her dig her own legal grave with every manipulative word. Still, I couldn't help but read between the lines. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't confused. She was angry because I didn't play the role she expected, the quiet, obedient husband who'd roll over and fund her exit. She thought I'd break. Instead, I went silent. And silence in a war like this was power. The messages kept coming over the next hour, begging, blaming, bargaining. Like stages of grief, she refused to complete. I didn't answer a single one. She had always been the one to talk over me, to twist the facts mid-argument until I couldn't tell who was wrong. Not anymore. I scrolled through her latest Instagram post, a story from a rooftop pool in Miami. Her sunglasses reflected the skyline. The caption read, "New beginnings, no regrets." No mention of me, no mention of marriage, just the curated illusion of freedom. Funny, considering she had just sent me 12 messages demanding I unlock the money she needed to fund that illusion. She was in a luxury suite, sipping champagne, playing the victim. I was in an Uber trying to hold my dignity together like broken glass in a paper bag. But here's the thing about people like Vanessa. They underestimate the quiet ones. They think patience is weakness, that kindness is naivety. But I had learned to wait, to watch, to move when it mattered. My phone buzzed again. Another message from her. "You know you can't win like this. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Just be reasonable." I typed a response. Just one word. No. Then I muted the thread and stared out the window as the city of angels unfurled before me. LA had always represented ambition to me. It was where my company took its first real breath, where I landed my biggest deal, where I learned the cost of success. It was also the place where I felt the most alone. I arrived at the hotel Drew had arranged. Quiet, elegant, discreet. Just what I needed. I dropped my bags and collapsed onto the bed fully clothed. It didn't feel like victory. Not yet. But it didn't feel like defeat either. I stared at the ceiling and thought about the years I spent building a life around someone who saw me as a stepping stone. And now, stripped of all illusions, I finally had the space to think without her voice in my ear. She wasn't used to this version of me. The version that didn't fold, didn't chase, didn't apologize for other people's betrayals. She wanted to play power games? She'd just found out what it felt like to lose the upper hand, and I wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, I woke to sunlight slipping past the blackout curtains and the kind of silence that felt foreign, unnatural. I hadn't slept that long in weeks. Or maybe it was just the first time I slept without her beside me, or pretending to be beside me. I reached for my phone and saw a single message. "Riley, you still in LA? Coffee today?" I stared at it for a while. Part of me wanted to ignore it. I didn't feel like talking to anyone, least of all someone who saw all of this coming, but another part knew I needed to hear it, the truth, unfiltered. I replied with one word. "Yeah." An hour later, I was sitting across from him at a quiet cafe on Melrose, the kind of spot Vanessa used to call low energy and basic. I suddenly liked it even more. Riley looked older than I remembered, sharper around the eyes, less forgiving in his expression. He didn't waste time with small talk. "She really did it, huh?" I nodded slowly. "She left me at the airport. Took half the joint account, didn't even call, just a text." He exhaled through his nose, shaking his head. "I'm sorry, man. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but—" "You warned me," I said, cutting him off before he softened the blow. "You told me years ago. Said she had a hunger I couldn't feed." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You saw it too. You just didn't want to admit it." I took a sip of my coffee. It was bitter, honest, like this conversation. "Remember Mexico?" he asked. "That weekend retreat? The one she insisted on skipping because she had better things to do? I did. It was supposed to be our friend's getaway, sun, ocean, laughter. Vanessa bailed last minute. Said she couldn't bear the thought of being trapped in mediocrity for a whole weekend. That was the first time I saw Riley look at her differently. She didn't like your friends, I said quietly. Thought they were holding me back. He snorted. No. She didn't like that we saw her clearly. He wasn't wrong. They all did. Riley, Danny, Marcus. Each one offered subtle warnings I refused to read. I mistook obsession for loyalty, jealousy for passion. I told myself she just wanted the best for us. She loved the spotlight, I admitted, the status, the lifestyle. But I thought, you thought that would be enough, Riley finished for me. We sat in silence for a while, letting it all settle. He wasn't judging me. He was grieving for the version of me I used to be. The one who tried too hard to make something work that was never built to last. You're not the only one, he said finally. She played everyone. Smiles, flattery, the works. You just got the full performance. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to blame her entirely. But part of me knew I'd let it happen. I had handed her the script and watched her play the role I needed, until she didn't. She never said it, but I think she resented me, I said. For what? For being happy without needing constant attention, for building something she couldn't control. Riley leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. That's the thing, Ethan. Some people don't want love, they want leverage, and the second you stop being useful, they find an exit. It hit me in the chest, hard and clean. You think she ever loved me? I asked, more to the air than to him. He didn't answer right away. I think she loved the life you gave her, and maybe she confused that with loving you. That was enough honesty for one morning. But it didn't break me. It grounded me. When we left the cafe, he clapped a hand on my shoulder. You're going to be fine. Maybe not today, but soon. You've still got people, man. You're not alone in this. I nodded. For the first time in days, I believed it. Back at the hotel, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Tired, yes, but steadier, stronger. I wasn't mourning a person. I was mourning a lie. The elevator doors opened to a sleek, glass-walled law office that smelled of money and war. I stepped in, greeted by cold efficiency and the kind of quiet that screamed power. Philip Lang stood to greet me, impeccably dressed, silver hair combed back like he'd just walked off a courtroom floor. Ethan, he said, extending a firm hand. I read everything. We're not just playing defense, we're going for full control. I sat across from him and nodded. Good. Because I'm done waiting for her next move. He slid a thick folder toward me. Emails, account statements, text logs. Everything I'd sent him had been cross-checked and time-stamped. We'll file for divorce in California. Stronger financial protections. And I already contacted a forensic accountant. We'll find every penny she's moved. I exhaled slowly. She'll retaliate. Philip didn't flinch. Of course she will, and she already has. He opened another folder. Photos, legal claims, a formal letter from Vanessa's attorney accusing me of emotional abuse, control, and neglect. She was painting a story, one where she was the victim of a cold, manipulative husband who pushed her out of the marriage. She's calling it coercive control. Says you isolated her, tracked her spending, restricted her travel. I almost laughed. She traveled more than I did, bought what she wanted. I enabled her lifestyle. I know. But in court, perception matters as much as truth. That's why we'll stay calm, documented, factual, no theatrics. He passed me a new form. My financial declaration. A roadmap of everything I owned, earned, built. She's hoping to get half of everything, he said, including your premarital shares in Carrington Logic. She won't, I said, eyes locked on his. She won't, he echoed. The days that followed blurred into motion. Depositions, strategy meetings, late-night calls with Philip and the finance team. Every dollar Vanessa had touched was traced, every asset secured. Then came the press. A gossip blog published a blind item, Tech power couple implodes over hidden betrayal. It didn't name us, but it didn't have to. The comments knew. Photos of Vanessa surfaced at luxury events in Miami and LA, each with a cryptic caption about rebirth, freedom, and being unapologetically me. Meanwhile, my inbox filled with questions from investors, reporters, even board members. Is this going to affect the brand? Are you okay? Do we need to put out a statement? Philip was ready for that too. Say nothing. Show no emotion. Let her play her drama in public. You stay focused on facts and business. But it wasn't easy. I watched as Vanessa twisted the narrative online, posting half-truths and passive-aggressive quotes, knowing she was trying to bait me. She painted herself as a woman escaping a man who stifled her light. She had no idea how bright I burned without her. Then one night my phone rang. Not a message. Not a voicemail. A call. It was her. I stared at the screen, heartbeat steady. I didn't answer. Let her hear the silence. She left a voicemail anyway. Ethan, we don't have to go down this path. It's ugly, it's public. I know you're hurt, but we can fix this. I never wanted to fight you. I played it twice just to hear the shift, the fear in her voice, the loss of control. Then I saved the recording and forwarded it to Philip. She's bluffing, he said. She knows she's losing ground. She's right about one thing, I replied. This will get ugly, but not for me. As the court dates approached, Vanessa's claims grew bolder. Her legal team submitted requests for spousal support, property rights, and retroactive reimbursements for emotional labor. She was trying to rewrite the entire marriage in her favor. But we were prepared. Every receipt, every message, every moment I carried that marriage alone while she spent, criticized, disappeared. Philip turned it all into a case so tight she couldn't breathe through the cracks. I'm not trying to destroy her, I told him one night. I know, he said, but she expected you to surrender. And that's not who you are anymore. He was right. I wasn't the same man she left at that airport. I was stronger, and I wasn't done fighting. It came as an email. No subject line, no name. Just a message from an encrypted account that read, "You don't know everything. She's been planning this for longer than you think, and she wasn't alone." At first, I almost deleted it. Probably a troll, I thought, someone capitalizing on the media storm. But something about the tone stopped me. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't vague, it sounded deliberate. I forwarded it to Philip immediately. He replied 10 minutes later. Let's not ignore this. Have our tech guy trace what he can. You should also read the attachment. There was a file, a single PDF, screenshots of messages between Vanessa and someone named CL. The timestamps went back 8 months. The language was personal, intimate. Plans, jokes, code words. They talked about me like I was an obstacle. He never sees it coming. Too obsessed with work. Once the shares are under my name, we disappear. The joint account first, then the condo. I'll make him think it's his idea to sell. I stared at the screen, nausea rising. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated. I read the entire thread twice. There were references to flights, hotels, wire transfers. Vanessa had created a secondary digital life, one where I was nothing more than a mark, a stepping stone to something better. And CL, that was the real mystery. I forwarded everything again to Philip. Find him. I don't care how. Within hours, his team had a name. Caleb Lyons. Former model. Now a lifestyle consultant based in Miami. They'd been seen together at events. Once in Turks and Caicos, another in Paris 2 months ago when she told me she was visiting her sick aunt. I sat there staring at the name and felt something inside me snap, not in anger, not in grief, in resolve. I opened my financial logs again, looked for patterns, repeated charges, hidden transactions. She had been funding their getaways with our money, cleverly disguised under business categories and personal care. She had even used my company card once. I found the receipt, a 5-star suite in Barcelona, 2 guests. She'd said it was a solo retreat to reconnect with herself. I didn't feel rage, I felt focus. Vanessa hadn't just left me. She'd plotted to erase me from my own life. Philip called later that evening. You okay? He asked. No, I answered calmly. But I'm ready." He paused. "This changes our strategy." "Good," I said, "because so does mine. I wanted everything documented. Every lie, every transaction, every false claim. I wanted timelines, photos, footage." I wasn't going to shout into the void. I was going to lay out the facts so clearly that even she couldn't twist them, and then we'd let the truth speak. But even as I built my case, I couldn't shake one question. Why didn't I see this coming? Riley's words echoed in my head. Some people don't want love, they want leverage. And Vanessa had been building leverage for nearly a year. I remembered the therapy sessions she insisted on, how she always steered the conversation to how I wasn't emotionally present, how she said I made her feel unseen. Now I saw it clearly. She'd been setting up the narrative, laying groundwork for the claims she'd eventually make in court. And me, I kept thinking love was enough. That if I just worked harder, gave more, stayed patient, she'd come back. She never left. She just changed targets. Later that night, another message came through. Same anonymous sender. This time it said, "She told him you were emotionally unstable, that if you fought back it would prove her point. Be careful." I didn't reply, but I understood. She didn't expect me to fight with facts. She expected an emotional collapse, a meltdown that could be weaponized. That wasn't going to happen. I printed every screenshot, filed every document, sent digital backups to Philip and a secure drive I kept offline. If Vanessa wanted a war, she'd get one. But it wouldn't be loud, it would be surgical. And by the time it was over, she'd be the only one standing in the rubble, wondering how the story she tried to write ended so differently. She asked for the meeting through her lawyer, a single sentence buried in a pile of procedural requests. "My client wishes to speak to Mr. Carrington directly in private, with no attorneys present." Philip advised against it. "She's trying to manipulate you," he warned. "That's her pattern, don't give her the stage." But I agreed, not out of curiosity, out of control. I wanted to see her face, hear her voice, strip away the digital filters and curated statements. No audience, no attorneys, just truth. We met at a hotel in Beverly Hills. Neutral ground, classy, quiet, discreet. The kind of place that made betrayal feel expensive. She was already sitting when I arrived. Hair perfectly done, designer dress, soft perfume, the illusion of calm. I sat across from her and didn't speak. She smiled, that familiar half-smile she used when she wanted to disarm me. "You look good," she said. I didn't answer. She tilted her head, studying me. "Still the silent type, huh?" "I'm listening," I said. "That's what you always wanted, right?" Her smile faltered. "I didn't ask for this to fight," she said softly. "I asked because we were married for 6 years. That counts for something." I nodded. "It does, and so does honesty, loyalty, respect." She looked down at her hands. "Ethan, I didn't plan to hurt you, I changed. And I felt like I couldn't breathe in our marriage. You were always in control, every detail, every plan, every moment. I felt small." "That's not why you left," I said calmly. "You left because you found someone else. Because you saw something shiny and chased it." Her eyes snapped up. "You think it was about him? Caleb was a mistake." "No," I said. "What you did with him was a mistake." But the real betrayal was months before that, when you decided to stop being honest and started being strategic. She went quiet. I leaned forward. "I saw the emails, Vanessa, the messages, the timeline. You didn't just fall out of love, you architected an escape plan, with money that wasn't yours. You tried to turn me into the villain before I even had a chance to respond." She shifted uncomfortably. "That wasn't—" "Don't lie," I cut in, voice steady. "Not here, not now." The room fell into a thick silence. She picked up her glass of water, took a slow sip. "I was scared," she whispered. "Of what?" "That I'd wasted my best years on someone who didn't see me anymore." I nodded. "And instead of talking, you sabotaged. Instead of ending things with dignity, you chose deceit." "I didn't think you'd fight back," she admitted. "You were always so passive when we argued. I thought you'd just walk away." "I did," I said. From the airport, but not from myself. Her eyes glossed over. Whether from guilt or frustration, I couldn't tell. Why are you really here? I asked. She hesitated, then sighed. Because I know I'm losing, and I don't want this to go further. I don't want to be humiliated. I gave a bitter chuckle. You weren't worried about that when you drained our account, or when you filed fake claims. I panicked, she said. You wouldn't talk to me. You froze everything. I had nothing. You had choices, I said. You still do. We sat in silence again, the kind that stripped away illusions. I don't want to fight anymore, she said finally. If we can come to some agreement, something fair, I'll walk away, quietly. No more games. I looked her in the eye. Fair ended when you lied. What happens next isn't about revenge, it's about justice. She closed her eyes for a moment. So that's it. That's it, I said, standing. She didn't follow me out, she didn't call after me. She stayed seated, alone, surrounded by the luxury she once craved, and I walked away, lighter than I'd felt in years. Not because she was gone, but because I finally was. The first night back home I didn't sleep. Not because of fear or regret, those feelings had already burned out. It was the silence. Not the kind that suffocates, the kind that finally lets you breathe. I stood in the kitchen at 3 a.m., barefoot, drinking water straight from the bottle. No noise, no judgment, no performance, just stillness. The apartment felt foreign at first, not because she was gone, but because I could finally see the place without the distortion of trying to please someone else. The furniture, the art, even the lighting, it had all been curated for her taste. Now it all looked staged. I didn't touch anything, not yet. Instead, I sat on the couch and cried. For 10 minutes straight. Silent, unstoppable tears. Not for her. For me. For the version of myself I'd ignored for years. The next morning I made 2 calls. One to my mother, one to my therapist. My mom cried when she heard my voice. Said she'd been praying for me every night. Asked why I didn't tell her sooner. I didn't have a good answer. I'd been ashamed. Not of the divorce, but of how long I let myself be erased in the name of love. My therapist, Dr. Lena, took a deep breath after I told her everything. You're not here because you lost her, she said. You're here because you finally found the part of you that was always worth protecting. That line stayed with me. I started showing up to every session. No cancellations, no excuses. I listened more than I spoke. Let the silence stretch. Let the truths rise. I began journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. Pages filled up fast, not with anger, but with questions, goals. Confessions. I wrote letters I'd never send, read them out loud, then tore them up. It was cleansing, like exhaling months of held breath. Business, meanwhile, had never been stronger. My team had rallied behind me, with a loyalty that caught me off guard. Investors who'd wavered during the gossip cycle circled back, praising my resilience. I didn't gloat, but I did notice who stood tall when the storm hit and who scattered. I made changes, promoted the quiet hard workers, let go of the opportunists. Carrington Logic launched a new product line 6 weeks after the court hearing began. It broke sales records in its first month. Some said it was luck. It wasn't, it was clarity. With the weight gone, I saw everything sharper. And that's when I reconnected with Claire, Riley's sister. She'd always been kind to me, quietly observant, never intrusive. She reached out after seeing the press spiral, invited me to a gallery opening, nothing more. I almost didn't go, but I did. And there she was, standing beneath soft lights, sipping wine, her energy gentle, steady. The exact opposite of everything I'd been drowning in. We talked for hours. Not about Vanessa, not about court, about art, music, memory. She didn't treat me like a victim or a project, just a man trying to remember who he was. We didn't rush anything. There were no declarations, no grand gestures, just space. And in that space I started rebuilding, not just my life, myself. I cleaned out the apartment, donated half the clothes, took down every framed photo, gave the couch away to a charity, not out of bitterness, out of rebirth. I bought a used bookshelf, filled it with novels I'd meant to read for years, cooked my own dinners, burned my own toast, laughed at how human I felt. No audience, no performance, just me. And I liked it. The world didn't need to know. There were no Instagram posts, no passive-aggressive quotes. No healing journey hashtags. Because healing wasn't a show, it was silence, it was work. It was choosing peace over noise. And every day, I chose it again. The final court date landed on a Monday. Grey skies. No symbolism, just weather. But still, it felt fitting, like the last act of a long, brutal play was finally ready to close. Philip met me outside the courthouse, file folder in hand, expression unreadable. "She's not contesting anymore," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "That fast?" "She saw the discovery report. She knows we could bury her in court. Financial fraud, perjury, conspiracy. Her lawyer talked her down." "And she's agreeing to the terms?" "She gets the condo in Miami, the BMW. A one-time settlement, far below what she asked for, no alimony. And Carrington logic? Stays entirely yours. She's waiving any claim, permanently." I nodded slowly. "Good." He handed me the final draft. "It's all here. You sign, she signs. It's over." There were no fireworks, no dramatic music, just a black pen, smooth paper, and 6 years dissolving into ink. I signed my name. When I looked up, Philip gave a small smile. "That's freedom, my friend, in binding legal form." Vanessa didn't show that day. She signed electronically, sent a short note through her lawyer. "I wish him peace." Peace. She never gave it. But she was quick to wish it once it no longer cost her anything. Still, I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The press caught wind, of course. Final settlement reached in Carrington divorce. Speculations flooded the blogs. Some praised my composure. Others dissected her losses. But I stayed quiet. Let them talk. Truth didn't need defense. What caught me by surprise was the inbox. Hundreds of emails from strangers. Men, women, even couples. People telling me they saw themselves in the story. That they stayed too long in toxic love. That they were scared to walk away. That they were inspired now. Some cried, some raged, some just said thank you. And for the first time I replied, not with advice, just acknowledgement. "I hear you." That's all most people want, to not feel invisible. 1 week later, I was invited to speak at a private business summit. Topic: Leadership Through Personal Crisis. I almost declined. Then I thought of the silence, of how many people never hear stories like mine until it's too late. So I accepted. I stood on that stage with no script, just my story, not about betrayal, about rebuilding, not about revenge, about clarity. And when I walked off, people stood, not because I was brilliant, but because I was honest. And honesty, it turns out, is louder than drama. Vanessa, meanwhile, faded from the spotlight. Her social accounts went private. Rumors swirled about Caleb, about money trouble, about brands distancing from her quietly. Nothing confirmed, just whispers. I didn't revel in it. I just moved on. The final paperwork came in the mail that Friday. Stamped, filed, complete. I opened the envelope, stared at the page, and exhaled. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just felt light, like a rope had been untied from around my chest. Later that night, Claire came by. No grand plans, just Thai takeout and a quiet movie. She saw the papers on the counter, scanned them briefly, then looked at me. "Feel different?" I nodded. "Yeah, but not how I thought I would." She tilted her head. "How's that?" "I thought I'd feel like I won," I said. "But it doesn't feel like winning." She smiled gently. "That's because it wasn't a game." She was right. It wasn't about beating her. It was about reclaiming myself. And now I had. The day I bought the jet, there was no ceremony, no press, no champagne, no viral announcement. Just keys, a signature, and the quiet satisfaction of doing something entirely on my own terms. It wasn't revenge. It was redemption. A year ago, Vanessa had walked out on me at an airport, thinking that was the last page of the story, that she'd closed the book with a single text. But this wasn't her story anymore. It was mine. And I was still writing it. The jet was a metaphor, yes, but it was also freedom in the most literal sense. No more waiting at gates. No more asking for permission. No more losing hours in lines while someone else decided how far I could go. Now I decided. I took my first flight 2 weeks after the documents arrived. Destination, Italy. No schedule, no meetings, just art, espresso, and silence. Claire met me in Florence. She had taken a month off from her design work, said she needed air. We never defined what we were. We didn't need to. She didn't save me. But she saw me. And sometimes that's more powerful than rescue. We wandered through galleries, ate pastries at sunrise, talked about books, past lives, the color of trust. She never asked about Vanessa. Never needed to. She understood healing doesn't require narration, just space and presence. One night, walking along the Arno River, she asked, "If you could go back, would you do anything differently?" I thought for a moment, then smiled. I'd have learned to listen to my own silence sooner. That was the real shift, not the divorce, not the settlement, not even the exposure of betrayal. It was realizing I'd spent years ignoring my own instincts for the comfort of someone else's approval. Never again. When we returned to the States, life resumed, but not as it was. I wasn't trying to get back to anything. I was building something new. Carrington Logic expanded. I hired fresh minds. I stepped into mentorship. I let go of the need to control every detail. I learned to delegate, to trust, to breathe. My mornings were no longer filled with anxiety about unread texts or shifting moods. They began with coffee, with music, with peace, sometimes with Claire, sometimes alone. Either way, I was whole. I declined interviews, offers for documentaries, podcast appearances. Everyone wanted the scandal, the drama, the heartbreak. I had none to offer. All I had was truth. And truth, frankly, wasn't flashy. It was quiet, it was patient, it was enduring. Occasionally I'd still hear about Vanessa. Someone would mention her at an event, or I'd catch her name in a headline. But she faded like noise in the distance, still talking perhaps, but no longer reaching me. She hadn't just lost me, she'd lost access. And sometimes that's what hurts most, not being hated. Being irrelevant. One evening, after a long day, I stood on the tarmac beside the jet, watching the sunset paint the sky in slow fire. And I thought back to that day at JFK. The bench, the text, the empty seat beside me, the man I was then, the man I am now. And I whispered, not bitterly, not triumphantly, just honestly, I lost a liar and gained freedom. And that was enough. If this story moved you, if you found a piece of yourself in these moments, don't forget to subscribe. There are more stories like this one. Ones that remind you you're not alone, that the truth always finds a way through. And if you're ready for the next chapter, go ahead and click the video waiting for you right here on the screen. Because healing doesn't end, it evolves. And you deserve to witness every step of it.